Think back to the very first core exercise you ever learned. Just picture that middle school gym class. You lay flat on your back, yanked on your neck, and forced out 50 sit-ups. Then you flipped over and held a plank until your shoulders literally shook and your hips sagged toward the floor. You really thought you were building a six-pack, didn't you? Well, you weren't. What you were actually doing back then, and let's be honest, what a lot of us are still doing today, was putting your lower back under the exact wrong kind of stress. You were exhausting your shoulders and getting absolutely nowhere closer to visible, functional abs. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a deeply ingrained fitness frustration. Since those middle school days, we've been taught that sit-ups and planks are the absolute foundation of core training. But here is the uncomfortable truth. They stop working far faster than you think. In fact, that is exactly why your stomach looks the exact same today as it did 6 months ago. Today, we completely rebuild how you train your core. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to ask yourself a very simple, logical question. If you want a bigger chest or bigger biceps, what do? You grab heavier dumbbells, right? You lift in a range of 8 to 12 reps. You create heavy mechanical tension. But then, when most people switch gears to core training, suddenly, they lay on the floor and crank out 100 bodyweight reps with zero resistance. It's crazy. Your core doesn't operate on some entirely different set of biological rules. It's the exact same type of skeletal muscle, yet we apply this completely flawed endurance-based logic to it. And before you even think about that old cliche that abs are made in the kitchen, stay with me for a second. They are revealed in the kitchen, but they are built in the gym. That half-truth about the kitchen is actually one of the biggest reasons people diet down, end up extremely lean, and still look completely flat. Without heavy progressive tension to actually trigger hypertrophy, the muscle blocks of your six-pack simply won't grow. And if they don't grow, they will never push through your skin. Section 1, the core training trap. Why sit-ups fail you. We really need to break down exactly why the sit-up is a biological trap. You anchor your feet, you sit all the way up, you feel a massive burn, and you naturally assume your abs are doing the heavy lifting. But anatomically speaking, your abs really only have one primary job, spinal flexion. That just means pulling your rib cage towards your pelvis. And that spinal flexion, it actually only happens in the very first few inches of a sit-up. After that initial crunch, you're just being pulled up by your hip flexors, specifically your psoas muscle, which attaches directly to your lower spine. So the vast majority of a sit-up is actually a hip flexor movement. And why does that matter to you? Well, think about your daily life. Most of us already have incredibly tight, overactive hip flexors just from sitting in chairs all day long. Tacking 50 sit-ups on top of that just adds load to a lower spine that's already carrying way too much tension. Think of it like taking a plastic credit card and bending it back and forth. It doesn't snap on the first rep, but repeated stress in that specific direction is exactly what the lumbar spine was not designed to handle. You aren't building a six-pack, you're just repeatedly stressing your lower back for zero biological return. Section 2. The plank plateau, holding instead of building. So sit-ups have real anatomical issues. But what about the plank? It's the exercise almost everyone assumes is the safer, smarter alternative. Now, what's really interesting about this is there's a massive catch. A plank is an isometric hold. That means the muscle holds tension without actually changing length. And biologically speaking, isometric holds are one of the absolute slowest possible ways to build muscle mass.
Just imagine you want a bigger chest. You unrack a heavy barbell, lower it exactly halfway down, hold it hovering over your chest for 2 solid minutes, and then rack it. Would your chest burn? Absolutely. But would it grow much? Not really. It didn't stretch. It didn't contract. It just held. And that is exactly what you were doing to your abs when you plank. Let's be real. By minute 2 of a long plank, most people's form is completely gone. Their hips sag, their lower back arches. They're literally just resting on their shoulder joints and their spine. The core turned off a full minute ago. It becomes all about ego instead of tension, chasing arbitrary numbers instead of real results.
Section 3. 3 essential core movements. It is time to stop twitching and start lifting. We're going to completely replace the sit-up with movement number 1, the weighted cable crunch. This is your ultimate tool for pure, isolated spinal flexion. You go to a cable machine, attach a rope, and kneel down. Now here is the critical part. Lock your hips in place. Do not let them move backward or forward. Squeeze your glutes tightly, grab the rope behind your neck, and crunch downward aggressively. By locking your hips, you completely remove the hip flexors from the equation. And best of all, you have a weight stack. You can actually do sets of 10 to 15 reps with heavy resistance. When it gets easy, you don't do 100 reps. You just move the pin. You add weight. That is true progressive overload. Next, we're going to replace that long, sagging, static plank. You see, your core is fundamentally designed for anti-extension, which basically means resisting your spine from bending backward under a heavy load. This is a biological necessity that we absolutely have to train correctly. And the absolute best way to do that is movement number 2, the ab wheel rollout. It takes the anti-extension demand of a plank, but adds dynamic movement and severe leverage. You grab an ab wheel, kneel, lock your core, and squeeze your glutes. Then slowly roll forward. As gravity tries to pull your hips toward the floor, your abs have to fire incredibly hard. Roll until you're fully stretched, then use your core to drag yourself back. I promise you, a few strict rollouts will give you infinitely more core stimulus than a long plank ever could. But hear this warning clearly. If you feel it in your lower back, you lost your brace. Pause, squeeze your glutes harder, and shorten your range of motion. You really have to earn that stretch over time. Finally, we arrive at movement number 3. This addresses a biomechanical concept the fitness industry largely ignores: anti-rotation, resisting the torso from twisting toward a load. It is hands down the single most underrated function of the core. People build the visible blocks of a six-pack, but they leave out the deep underlying spine stability they actually need to be truly strong. To fix that instant stability gap, we use the Pallof Press. You stand sideways to a cable or resistance band at chest height. Hold the handle right at your sternum. Now press it straight out in front of you. Hold it there for 2 full seconds, and then pull it back. The weight desperately wants to twist your torso toward the anchor. Your entire job is to resist that twist. When you press out, your obliques and your deep core muscles will fire intensely to keep your body perfectly straight. It's a total game changer. Section 4, the daily training mistake, recovery over ego. Now we need to pivot to a harsh reality check. There's one massive programming mistake that will completely undo all the heavy lifting you just learned. Ask yourself, why on earth are you training your abs every single day? People hit chest on Monday, back on Tuesday, and then tack on a frantic 10-minute ab circuit at the end of every single workout. You don't train your chest every day, right? The core is skeletal muscle, it breaks down in the gym, and it only grows when it is left alone to recover 2 to 3 times a week. So, the crucial point is this. Here is your ultimate playbook to take straight to the gym. For spinal flexion, do the weighted cable crunch for 10 to 15 reps. For anti-extension, the ab wheel rollout with a strict brace. And for anti-rotation, the Pallof Press taken near failure. You use heavy progression, strict form, and then you leave the muscles alone to recover. This finally replaces those old, tired endurance methods with genuine, progressive growth. You can keep doing the exact same sit-ups and long, sagging planks you've been doing since middle school. You can keep wondering why absolutely nothing changes when you look in the mirror. Or you can start treating your core like a real, powerful muscle group. Add weight, progress the load, build something real. The question I leave you with today is simple. Will you stop twitching and start lifting? The choice is entirely yours. Keep pushing, and I'll see you in the next explainer.